Hi there. We've been talking a little bit about the fact that I have lived a third of the time that the United States of America has existed. I thought I'd go back and talk a little bit about my early childhood today. Uh, we didn't have electricity in the first home I lived in, which meant there certainly was no running water. There were no bathrooms. We had a wood cook stove in the kitchen that we had to chop our wood. Remember, I told the story about Dad and the Blue Mares, where he drove over a pile of logs that we had gathered, of blackjack logs that we had cut out and stacked up. Well, that log pile was for our winter heating in the house and cooking. We had a heater that was in the living room. Just showed a picture of it there. I think that we'll get this done. Anyway, and so we grew up using wood stoves. We had kerosene uh, lamps in the house. And I can remember when we first got electricity, we got one light bulb in each room, and it had a pull cord hanging down in the middle of the room that you pulled to turn the light on. And I remember thinking, man, we can stay up all night because we had light. But when we got electricity, that's all we got was electricity, one light in each room, and I think we had a plug-in put in somewhere, but we didn't use it because we didn't have anything that plugged in when I was small, and that was true for probably the first 6 to 7 years of my life. Uh, Actually, that was till about 8 years old that I became, and then we didn't have any heating in the house other than wood until I was 10 or 12. And so it was one of my jobs to go out and carry the wood in, both for the kitchen, which had to have smaller wood because the kitchen stove wouldn't take big uh, chunks of wood. The living room stove would. And so that was a daily chore that you had to go bring in enough wood to last for the day. And in the wintertime, sometimes it was quite a bit of wood that had to be brought in. But I was small enough then that I didn't have to do the chopping or the sawing. We had an old two-man buck saw that we would saw, or my brothers would saw the wood up outside, and then I'd bring it in little chunks, sometimes a foot long, sometimes a little longer than a foot long. But that was our heating and that was our cooking elements. And so uh, that was just the way life was. And so we lived that way, and we hauled wood. I can remember going to Munzie and Poppy's house to spend the night while I was small, and they were in the same circumstances. They had a wood stove in their living room that provided all the heating for the house. And I can remember in the wintertime going into bed and Poppy holding the covers up because there would be 4 or 5 layers of quilts, and I was small enough that I couldn't get under them, and he would hold them up, and I would crawl in under them, and he would drop them down on me. And we had a feather bed. The mattress was made out of feathers, and I would sink down into those feathers, and I can remember tipping my head up, and the top of the bed over the blankets, over the quilts, were straight, was level. I didn't indent up into the quilts. I indented down into the feather bed. And those are some very fond memories. I can remember when we would try to get a room hot and it was in the cold part of the year. I can remember the stove turning red on the outside with heat from inside, heating the metal of the stove up until it was a glowing red fire, or a glowing red on the outside of the stove. Anyway, some interesting times that I grew up with. Have a good day.